Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Vayigash. And in the very opening of the Torah portion, we see Judah and his brothers who have come down from the land of Canaan because of a great famine that had overtaken the whole region. Judah and his brothers are standing before Joseph, who is now like Pharaoh. He is now the prime minister of Egypt. They don't know it's Joseph. And if you've been following the story up to this point, you know that Joseph and his brothers had a very rocky, a very troubled relationship. Earlier on, we see that the brothers were furious with the arrogance that Joseph had shown them. And they had thrown him into a pit, and they were even contemplating killing him when Joseph was discovered by some traveling merchants, picked up from that pit and taken to Egypt. And through a whole series of twists and turns and ups and downs that transpired in Egypt, Joseph is elevated to this very high position. So the brothers, being led at this point by Judah, are standing in front of Joseph. And we read in the text, Vayigash alav Yehuda, Vayomer bi Adoni, Yedaber na avdecha, davar ba'oznei Adoni, ve'al yichar amcha ba'avdecha ki chamocha kefaro. Judah now approached him and said, "By your leave, my lord, please give your servant a hearing, and do not let your anger flare up at your servant, for you are like Pharaoh." Now the word Vayigash, that's the name of this week's Torah portion. It's taken from the very first word of this portion, means to approach. And the word Vayigash in biblical Hebrew is an interesting word. It means to approach, but it is nuanced. In some places in the Bible, it means to approach in order to engage in conflict. Vayigash is used sometimes as a way of approaching the enemy. It also is used in various parts of the Bible, meaning to approach another person, to reconcile differences with that person. And we're not sure how this approach of Judah is going to work. Will it end in conflict? Will it end in Joseph wreaking vengeance upon his brothers? Or will it end up in reconciliation? Well, we see that Judah reveals much about himself to Joseph. You must remember, he didn't know he was speaking to Joseph at this point. He reveals his anguish over the loss of Joseph. You can see hints. You can see that Judah is taking responsibility for what had happened. He is also taking responsibility for that little brother that was born to Rachel and Jacob after Joseph had left Canaan. That brother being Benjamin, and Joseph had insisted that the brothers bring him down. And Joseph is playing a certain kind of cat and mouse game with the brothers to see how they will react when he demands that they bring Benjamin down. And so, down to Egypt, that is. And you see Judah feeling a great deal of anguish about what this will do to their father Jacob, if anything should happen to their little brother Benjamin. And it is at that point that Joseph reveals himself to his brothers. He says, "It is I, Joseph, your brother." And so we see that reconciliation, when you've had a conflict with another person, requires a certain amount of revealing of one's inner life. There is a Hasidic teaching in this. There's a Hasidic understanding of the word Vayigash, and the question is asked: whom did Judah approach? And the Hasidic teaching goes something like this: Judah approached himself. He looked inward. He took responsibility for what he had done, or his part in the conflict between the brothers and Joseph. You know, when we want to reconcile with another person, we have to get away from our egos. We have to not defend ourselves, but to own up to our responsibility, to our part in the conflict. And that is precisely what Judah did in this portion, which allowed Joseph to drop his defenses, his ego, in a sense, to get away from his own ego and to cry and to embrace his brothers. A certain amount of revealing of ourselves to each other is the first step on the road to reconciliation. Well, I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion and come to your own conclusion. Shabbat Shalom.